Hey, this is former WWE superstar and ECW original, the Blue Meanie, and you're watching Throwdown Theatre. Please like, please subscribe, and watch all the great memories on this great channel.
Wrestling fans, if you like what you've seen, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and also don't forget to ring that bell.
Wrestling fans, you are on the spot with A.T. Huck. This is Throwdown Theatre and Wrestling Real Talk, and I have right here one of my favorite people in the whole wide world, the Blue Meanie. How you doing, Meanie?
Oh, Huck, it's so good to see you, my friend. Me and you go way back. You know, I trained with Al Snow.
That's
and,
right.
When I was trying to find my way, I went and you made me my first trading cards.
Your first trading cards,
which I still have.
The Zebra Kid. He was the Zebra Kid.
Yeah, I don't know what it meant, but it was a name, and
well, tell me this: how did you transfer from the Zebra Kid to the Blue Meanie? How did that happen?
Thankfully, Raven from ECW saw me on a couple independent shows, and he came up with an idea. Stevie Richards was his lackey, his sidekick. He would have a sidekick lackey to a lackey, and they saw me. They thought the idea of me being a half-shirt and Daisy Dukes would be funny.
Right. I mean, it was really from the Beatles. They had a character called the Blue Meanie.
Yeah. Raven was like, "Did you ever see the movie The Yellow Submarine?" I was like, "I was a kid." He's like, "Remember the Blue Meanie?" I was like, "Vaguely." So we went to Raven's house, went to Blockbuster, waited for Blockbuster to open, rented the movie, watched the movie, and he would have me practice being the Blue Meanie right there in his living room. And then he introduced me to Paul, and Paul gave me the opportunity. And
so you were the Blue Meanie before ECW. Before you actually started in ECW, you had already become the Blue Meanie.
I tried it once. Like, he had me trying it he would do like he would be on the show, and he just had me in this corner practicing. But like my first true blue, no pun intended, Blue Meanie was November 1995 at the ECW Arena. Mm-hmm. And it's going on over almost 30 years
and
now.
It just took off, man. It just made your career, and you've been the Blue Meanie ever since. And I know you changed a little bit.
Yeah.
I remember when you were, gotten buff and everything. That was a little different, Blue Meanie. But that was awesome. You have to mature and evolve in the business.
I learned, you always listen to the vets, and, I remember Bill Alfonso talking about how he always change up his look. Do something a little different, so when somebody looked at you, they're trying to figure out, what you're doing, but they get invested in you. He's like, one day, Daddy, I would have a perm, and then I would just shave my head, and,
keep them guessing, huh?
Keep them guessing. So, like, as a Blue Meanie, I had long hair, I had short hair, all kinds of different looks. And, here we are,
That's awesome.
I'm just grateful I still have hair. That's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. You still have a lot of hair.
Yeah. I have my mom's good hair and her bad feet.
So now you don't actually wrestle anymore? Are you retired as an actual wrestler? You just doing the circuit now?
I still do some shows. My body doesn't heal like it used to. Mm-hmm. Like I'll do stuff for MLW when they come through Philly, or the NWA when they come through Philly. I'm very spoiled. I live 10 minutes from the ECW Arena. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So that's a good place to work still.
Yeah. But I'll still travel. I'll drive, like we drove out here for Squared Circle Expo. 12-hour drive from Philly, which I love. You give me a highway and an open road and a radio, and I'm good to go.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's a pleasure talking to you, my old friend.
Dude, he was you were one of the first guys, man. You were on my first matches, and to be here all these years later and still be friends.
That's right.
It means a lot. I never made $1 million in the wrestling business, but I got paid royally and great friendships, and you're one of my great friends.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have a couple questions for you. This is something that Rude Boy usually does, but I'm going to try to do it myself for the first time.
I'm going to do a run-in.
I'm going to do a run-in. I'm going to throw out 5 names for you, and briefly give me what you think about them.
Okay.
My first one is Al Snow.
Oh, big brother. My big brother. I wouldn't be here without him. He believed in me,
He believed in you.
Yeah. Even when I wanted to quit, his approach to training was very, if you didn't know.
I was there.
Yeah. If you didn't know A, you didn't move on to B. He made sure I knew what I was doing, but he built up my confidence that I didn't have. So,
God, that's awesome.
He's my big brother.
Here's my next one. Sabu.
Again, another mentor. And in Michigan, when people had their certain crews of talent that they used, he booked me on Sabu booked me on all of his shows. He gave me that chance for to better my craft and get some notoriety. Him and Sabu and Paul Heyman shaved my head on the one show.
I remember. I was about to mention that.
Oh, if I could find footage of that, that'd be great.
I'll look for it, man. I know it's out there.
Yeah, but I went to ECW and Paul's looking at me. He's like, "I know you. Where have I seen you before?" I was like, "Well, you and Sabu shaved my head." He was like, "That's it." And from that point on, he really took a liking to me because he saw what I was willing to do for the business.
That's right.
Yeah.
Here's the next one. Raven.
Without Raven, there would be no Blue Meanie. Best mind in the business. Should be a booker somewhere. Should be training people. But I'm grateful for him. There's a documentary coming out about Raven soon. I got interviewed for it, and can't wait for that to come out. But Raven was such an there would be no Blue Meanie without Raven.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's another one. Shane Douglas.
Talk about a guy who I went from watching. I was a fan of his, when he wrestled for the UWF. Then I got to see him in ECW, and then to be able to go to that ECW locker room and share a locker room with him. He welcomed me with open arms, and he looked out for me in a lot of ways too. When he thought maybe I was, he's kind of like the union boss.
Yeah.
How you doing? How you feeling? But he always gave me great advice. He always looked out for me.
Great
as a young. I was only in the business a year and a half when I went to ECW, so I was super green. And, he would always give me the best advice. You had no choice but to learn in that locker room. But Shane Douglas is one of the guys who always helped me.
I got one last one for you, and it's a big one. JBL.
Hey, man, things happen in the business. Me and him had a rough patch, but like men do, we went into a room and we ironed it out. And then we've been good friends for almost 20 years now. So, we had our talk.
Bad situation turned out to be positive.
Yes, there was one point where the Royal Rumble was coming to Philadelphia. He petitioned to get me into the Royal Rumble, and it was down to me and Bubba Ray Dudley, and they chose Bubba Ray Dudley, which is awesome either way. But the fact that JBL was willing to put my name in there, use his reputation to try to get me a booking on a huge card like that. He's a great guy. He does a lot of stuff for charity, and I'm glad we were able to go through our differences. Well, in that Attitude Era, it was so high-strung. People were high-strung.
Wild West.
It was the Wild West, and people were fighting for TV time, and people were, you're traveling, you're miserable, and, sometimes things happen, but like I said, we went into a room like two men, worked it out, and now we're great friends.
Well, that's good. Like I said, a negative turned into a positive.
Yes.
It was great talking to you, Blue Meanie.
My friend.
I love you, man. I hope to run into you again.
I love you too, man.
Enjoy yourself this weekend.
I appreciate you holding on to my bag for 2 years.
Oh, I forgot about that.
We were doing a show for ICP, and I forgot one of my bags at the hotel, and Rhino handed it off to you, and you got it back to me.
I made sure I totally forgot about that. Great story, man.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
And that's why I knew you were one of the good, one of the best guys in the business,
well,
inside
you so
and outside.
Much.
You rarely meet people that you could call friends, and you're one of my friends, man.
Thank you. I feel the same way about
I appreciate
you, man.
you,
Love
my
you.
friend. I love you too, bro.
This has been Wrestling Real Talk, Throwdown Theater, AT Huck. See you later.